This story explores the depths of the devil's workshop, or what is called the imagination. Turn off your lights, sit back, and relax as we dive deep into a tale that utilizes the full mental prowess of the mind to articulate. So, gather around as the classes of DrDark are now in session. My name is Cody, and I am currently a senior studying in the University of Houston. The following set of events happened to me way back in 2020. And through this narrative, I want to warn the listeners to please learn from my mistakes. If you ever see hair on your doorstep in the middle of the night, immediately lock your doors and hide. This is my story. I used to live in California with my parents and did most of my elementary education there. Then, my dad got a promotion and we moved to Ohio, where I finished my high school and graduated with straight A's, and sooner than I realized, I was on my way to a full paid ride to college. Some background on my family doesn't hurt the narrative, I guess. My parents were raised in poverty in Belarus and very early on in life. They were convinced that their kids didn't deserve to go through the hardships that they had to endure in their childhood. So after immigrating to America and after I was born, they made it their life's mission to get me the best education that America could offer, seeing that they never went to college themselves. Their sacrifices taught me how providing for family is the single most paramount responsibility every grown adult should look up to, no matter what. Fast forward to my narrative, they were ecstatic when they learned that I had been accepted into the University of Houston with a full scholarship into their engineering program. The happiness of my parents was something I would never miss for the world. So during the weekend, my parents helped me pack up and we started for Houston. This marked as the catalyst for the horrors that awaited me there, only to be opened up like the Pandora's box as I narrate this story. Upon reaching Houston, we immediately met my Uncle Mark. He was a chef and had a very famous taco joint which sold tacos to almost half of Houston. Seeing that breakfast tacos are a ritual in Texas, he offered us some of the best tacos that we had ever tasted. So, after a tour of Houston, Uncle Mark agreed for me to stay with them at their farmhouse for the entirety of my college life. I was so happy. I didn't waste a single second to make myself feel at home. But my sweet reality was about to become a vicious nightmare, a memory burnt into my psyche that still haunts me to this day. When I arrived at Uncle Mark's farmhouse at 6:30 in the evening, everything looked hunky-dory from the outside. But once I stepped into the house, I got this very eerie feeling of suffocation and nausea, along with almost unbearable heat. Upon inquiring, Uncle Mark told me that they had locked the doors and windows as it was very hot outside. It was those moments where what he said made no sense and sounded logical at the same time. So he being an elder, I didn't inquire further and tagged along with him as he gave me a tour of the farmhouse. Seeing that it was going to be my home for the next 4 years, he insisted that I be aware of all the nooks and crannies of the house. In case you're wondering, I didn't opt for a dorm room in the campus because this happened at a time when the COVID pandemic was at its peak and all the dorm rooms were shut down and online mode of education had become a way of life. But I'm digressing from the story. After getting settled into my room and unpacking my stuff, the next 2 weeks or so were very uneventful. Due to the pandemic and online mode of studies, I had a lot of free time on my hands and would spend them mostly playing video games. So on one particular night, I was playing Call of Duty and lost track of time. When I looked up to my watch, I gasped as it showed 2:23 a.m. in the night. Seeing that I had online classes the next day, I decided to stop playing for the night and got ready for bed. But suddenly I felt parched and exhausted, so I went down to the kitchen to get a glass of water. This was one of the several mistakes I made, which will make more sense as the narrative progresses. When I stepped into the kitchen, it felt like I had stepped into an oven of some sorts. The fridge was just aligned to the left of the backyard door, and seeing that it was almost 3 a.m. now, it was pitch black outside. The thermostat, which was conveniently located near the kitchen wall opposite to the backyard door, was cranked all the way up. As the heat was becoming unbearable, I turned down the thermostat to a comfortable temperature. This was my second mistake. As I was taking a water bottle from the fridge, I noticed something strange on the glass of the backyard door. There were marks forming on the glass as if someone was breathing very close to it. But since it was so small, I overlooked it, thinking maybe I turned the thermostat way down. But curiosity overcame the best of me and I unlocked the door and looked outside to inquire. This was my third mistake, and a grave one that too, not going to lie. It was so dark I couldn't even see past 7 feet. But I noticed something that was super odd. I saw a bunch of greyish dark hair on my right side as I was standing just a few feet away from the backyard door, sitting like a miniature haystack. Throughout my story, I was able to come up with a logical explanation to everything, or so I thought. But I had no explanation as to how and why was there a bunch of hair stockpiled near the door like that. I thought to myself, there has to be a logical explanation to this. But I was way too tired to ponder on this, so I locked the backyard door and went to my room and went to sleep. This was my fourth mistake. In the middle of the night, I was woken up by a loud bang after just 50 minutes of sleep, give or take. The bang was so loud, I thought somebody shot a gun near me. Terrified, I sat up on my bed and looked around. Nothing seemed to be out of place and the bangs had ceased. But just as I was about to go to sleep again, there was another bang on the door. Frustrated and scared this time, I immediately went to open the door, but something told me it wasn't a good idea, seeing that it was almost 4 a.m. now. So I went to bed and eventually dozed off. I would later find out that opening the door would have been my fifth and final mistake. Pretty shaken up by these events, I inquired about it to Uncle Mark the next morning. When I told him everything, he looked like somebody had flushed the blood out of him. "Sit down, kid. I have been meaning to tell you something," he told me, guilt-ridden, as if he was hiding a secret, and suddenly I had uncovered it. As it turned out, this was a sinister secret, an urban legend of some sorts, that had been hiding for generations, and now I had come very close to encountering an ancient evil and getting myself killed. What he told me that day has been forever burned to my memory as the most horrifying secret somebody has ever unraveled in front of me. After I was done trying to make sense of last night's events, he sat me down and told me, point blank, in his signature, no beating around the bush way of speaking, "You had a hit or miss encounter with an ancient entity called the ghoul." He immediately sat upright in his chair once he took the entity's name, as if fearing and respecting its authority at the same time. But for me, it also meant that he was about to tell me something that might forever change my perspective of reality. With almost no expression, Uncle Mark continued. According to local legend, the ghoul is an ancient immortal being, cursed to roam the face of the earth in search of eternal peace. Its quest is predicated on snatching people's souls and feeding on the fear of people. "That can't be true, Uncle Mark. That sounds total BS, I said, trying to sound cocky from the outside, but deep down being startled out of my wits and questioning everything. But from the looks of it, Uncle Mark had just scratched the surface of it. What he told me next made my heart jump out of my mouth. "Listen very carefully, kid. You need to know some rules to keep you safe from the ghoul. I didn't tell you the rules immediately because I was following the rules diligently myself and was making sure that my family was safe. But as you were that close to losing your life, I have to tell you the rules. Listen to them carefully because I am not going to tell you again. And please, follow the rules strictly or you might become the ghoul's next target." Uncle Mark sounded serious now. When he told me that I was that close to losing my life, I had my ears open in fear and mouth open in horror. As he narrated the rules I had to follow to stay away from the ghoul and stay safe. These are my Cliff Notes version of the rules that Uncle Mark laid down for that day. Rule number 1. Always lock your doors and windows past 6 p.m. And even if you unlock any doors and windows, immediately lock them after 5 minutes or the ghoul will take your soul, killing you instantly. Rule number 2. After 12 a.m., keep the thermostats turned all the way up. The ghoul doesn't like hot environments, so that will keep it far, far away from you. Rule number 3. When you see mist forming on your windows or your door glasses, as if someone or something is breathing close to it, don't inquire and immediately turn back and go to your room as fast as you can, making sure you lock the doors behind you. Rule number 4. If curiosity gets the best of you and you break the third rule, there is a solid chance that you will see a stockpile of grayish black hair at your doorstep or your window. If that happens, immediately run inside and bring matches and burn the hair. Run inside and lock the doors. The flames will keep the ghoul away. And finally, rule number 5. If you hear loud bangs coming at your doorstep from 3 a.m. to 4 a.m., don't answer them at any cost. This is the ghoul's way of tricking you into opening the door so that it can take your soul instantly, killing you. This makes no sense at all. It all sounds made up, I said, still not being able to wrap my head around this. Uncle Mark grew impatient. I don't joke around, boy. This is how your cousin Kevin was taken away from us 6 years ago. He told me with an angry fit mixed with an emotional tint of regret and trauma branching from past experiences. When I heard this, it all came back to me. Now it all clicked and my heart skipped a beat as I walked down memory lane, remembering the events of the mysterious death of my cousin Kevin 6 years ago. I remember it as if it was yesterday. On the morning of August 2015, police found Kevin's lifeless body in his apartment in Michigan. The authorities were pretty ignorant about the whole scene and ruled the case as death by accident. But I always had my doubts about it. According to the coroner's report, there was no physical trauma to the body anyway. Also, his system was clean and he wasn't under any influence of narcotics or alcohol. But one thing did struck out to me as odd. According to the police report, all the windows and doors were locked in his apartment and forensics ruled out forced entry. But his bedroom door was wide open and the police found Kevin lying there face up as if he had passed out. But upon inspection, they realized that he had passed away. Nobody cared to state the fact that his bedroom door can only be locked from the inside, thereby making it impossible to come into the room if not unlocked from the other side. Seeing that Kevin was found dead in his apartment at about 4:45 a.m. in the morning, he had no reason to keep his bedroom door unlocked. So, it only makes sense that he had unlocked the door to go outside, most probably to inquire about something. Seeing how the pieces of the puzzle fit in, a cold chill ran down my spine, thinking how I would have ended up like Kevin, and by some stroke of luck, I didn't open the door last night. After almost an hour talking with Uncle Mark, I had turned from a skeptic to a believer. These events happened frequently during my stay in Houston. I tried to learn more about the ghoul and collected vital insights from the lore surrounding this mythical entity. Nobody had seen the ghoul, but its presence was enough to show that danger was close, and vague illustrations of how the ghoul looked like changed from lore to lore. But one thing was clear for sure. You should fear the ghoul. It has almost been a year since my close encounter with the ghoul, and as I narrate this story, I still remind myself how lucky I am. On that fateful night, had I broken the fifth and final rule and caved into my fear, I wouldn't have been here telling the tale. The world is full of dark and nasty secrets, secrets that are powerful enough to alter a person's reality and change them forever. As of my reality, I follow the rules diligently, and I advise the listeners to do the same as well. I will say it again to drive my story home. If you ever find hair on your doorstep in the middle of the night, immediately lock the doors and hide. Follow the rules, or the ghoul will get you for good. I hope this story tickled your scary bones and your imagination as well. If you liked this story, do like, share, and comment on this video, as I would really appreciate that very much. And do subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon to be up to date with all my latest content. Also, follow me on Instagram and Reddit. The links are given in the description below. Or you can find all my social media links in the About page of this YouTube channel. So do check them out and show me your support. So with this, until next time, the class is dismissed.